Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the shop once again. Today I want to run you through some quick diagnostics I did to figure out why this 2007 Navigator was setting a P0563, which is system high voltage. Basically anything it's seeing over 15.5 volts sustained. So it's seeing it over and over again and it knows it's not right, especially when the PCM is controlling the charging system and it's not responding correctly, okay? Now the very first clue that I had that it was actually contained within the PCM and its circuits is that none of the other critical modules on the vehicle, like the ABS module or the RCM, were throwing high voltage codes. Okay, they'll always monitor the voltage because it's very critical for those critical modules to actually work properly. Okay, so they'll set codes also and they'll see the same thing. So what I did is I concentrated on the PCM. I brought up some data on the data logger and it just didn't look right. Let's take a look and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, over here on the scan tool, the very first thing, of course, I did was pull those codes, and only the PCM was throwing any kind of high voltage codes. And the other clue, the only clue that the customer had that there was a problem, is right down there in the little message center, it was throwing a battery light for a charging system fault, basically. And it does it over and over again as long as they're driving the vehicle and the engine is off idle. That's another clue right there. So you're kind of putting all this stuff together. So the very next thing I wanted to do was see what the actual voltage was that the PCM was seeing. Okay, so we can bring that data up on the data logger here, live data stream from the PCM. And I brought up the B positive, which is the actual voltage that's coming into it, that's seeing and it's measuring from. So everything looks good here, it's nice and smooth. And then I brought up the generator PIDs also, that are actually controlling and monitoring that generator, okay, and their desired voltage down here. So I went ahead and I started it up, see where our charging system was putting out. Okay, started it up, let it idle a little bit, and you can kind of see the monitor circuit is all over the place here. Okay, it's not too bad. It's at a higher percentage right now, but not so bad. It's leveling out right there, see it? But the problem I saw was this right here. Look at that. It's all over the place. The voltage is all over the place. Do you really think the generator is putting out voltage that varying that fast? I mean, look at that. It's all over the place. And the other thing I did is I went for a drive and basically upped the RPM. Okay? So go about 1200 or so. And look what happens. Bring it down a little bit. Right about there, 1200 sweet spot. Look at that, it's maxing out. If I can hold it right. And that's when the little error comes on in the message center. Okay, bring it down a little bit. Get in that perfect sweet spot where it just holds 15.93. And then boom, it'll come on the cluster and throw that battery light, okay? So the next thing I did was I came out here, and at first at idle, I wanted to see what is this thing actually putting out. Now the customer put on a new alternator, new harness up to here, okay? And that includes the connection for the PCM. Rock solid, barely varying on the millivolt side. So I knew what the PCM was seeing was not right, okay? So the very next thing I did is I revved it up to that 1200 to see if we were actually getting that 15.93. Nope, we're still at 14.3, 14.25. Not the problem, okay? So the next thing I did is I checked all the powers and grounds coming to the PCM so it would work. And then I load tested them also. And I found out some critical inputs on there were not getting power. Let me bring you over to the wiring here. So you can see this is the main connector that has all the grounds. So all the ones that are highlighted should have a good ground and of course power to come in so this PCM can work. They were not getting it on a couple of the circuits. Now the circuits that were not getting any kind of voltage to work was these ones right here. So we have pins 51, 52, and 53, which is basically power coming in to the PCM so it can work for all these different boards inside of there, different subsystems on the board. Okay, so they weren't getting that voltage, but they were getting the voltage from other areas because there's a couple other power inputs that are constant to it. Okay, so I wasn't getting any power on these pins on fuse 76. Okay, so of course I went out here. What are the chances? I went out and I checked it on fuse 76, which is right there. If you can see it, sure enough, it was blown. Let me get you highlighted there. Yep, it was blown. All right, so check this out. All right, so check this out. You see the voltage is all over the place. Sometimes it drops as low as 10. You see these big dips in here for no reason at all. Okay, again, they're rock solid. Now watch this. I'm gonna put the new fuse into here. A fuse that actually, works. Watch. Solid. And then of course, once you rev it to that 1200, it's still reading correctly and not reading 15.93. Look at that. Take it out. Put it back in. Unbelievable. Just for kicks, I went over to my 2009 Escape and I simulated the same kind of fault. I pulled this fuse right here that feeds V-power over the PCM so that it can work. You have to remember there's a lot of outputs that the PCM controls, and there's a lot of internal processors that it needs to have amperage for them to function properly. Now in the Escape, on the scan tool, same thing, the voltage was up and down, up and down, up and down, but also the transmission had harsh engagements and harsh shifts, because on the Escape, the PCM controls the engine and the trans, whereas on the Navigator, it had a separate TCM with its own powers and grounds to control on the Navigator. So you may have multiple different issues that may come out of nowhere, and you want to check your powers and grounds coming in, because this will not set any kind of codes, and you'll be sitting there scratching your head, bring it to someone, and they're gonna just kind of throw parts at it to make it work, and in the end it's gonna be a 10-cent fuse. Okay, it's not always the alternator either, just because you have high or low voltage codes. Remember, since 2000 about, Ford implemented what they call smart charging technology, which the PCM will actually control the internal regulator inside the alternator. So there's a common monitor circuit right here, and it's always watching these circuits to make sure it's getting a response from that regulator, and if it doesn't, it will set a code. Okay, so that'll tell you if it's actually getting a response and all this stuff right here is working. In the end though, high voltage or low voltage, what you're going to do is you're going to go up and over that battery, and you're going to see what it's actually getting with a regular digital voltmeter and get the true reading. And then you can go to that scan tool and check and see, hey, do they match? And in this case, they were just all over the place, not right, and you knew you needed to check these inputs that are coming in so that it can work properly. And sure enough, in the end, it was a 10-cent fuse. Done, out the door.